Today is September 13th, 2017. My name is Joe Todd. This is an interview with Bennett M. Guthrie II in Park Hill, Oklahoma. Sir, where were you born?
Tahlequah, Oklahoma.
Tahlequah. And when's your birthday?
28 September.
What year?
Year after years.
1947.
1947, yeah.
Who was your father?
Bennett M. Guthrie, Sr.
And your mother?
Virginia Guthrie.
What was her maiden name?
McWhorter.
M-C-C...
W-H-I-R-T-E-R.
Oh, W-H-I-R-T-E-R. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you go through school in Tahlequah?
No, I didn't go to school. No, I went to school, through school. I started in Tulsa, and then when Dad was working at Douglas Aircraft, and I came back here and went to school here for the rest of my life.
What year did you graduate?
1965.
1965. What type of work did your father do?
What did he do?
Yes.
He was a school teacher at Sequoia High School. He taught chemistry and science.
And he was in World War II?
Yes.
What unit was he with?
He was the 503rd Parachute Infantry Regiment. He was. He made 3 combat jumps while he was in the Pacific. And the last one was, I guess, on Nimafore Island in the Philippines. But he'd also jumped on Corregidor. And then he got hurt and they sent him home.
In your schooling, who was your favorite teacher?
Oh, goodness. I had a lot of them. A lot of them that used to bust my bottom and grab me by the ears and all those kind of stuff. I'd say, I probably had a guy named Bob Bryan in college. You talking about college or high school?
Both.
I'd say probably, well, I had several. It's kind of hard to do it, but I mean, I had a geology teacher here at Northeastern called Bob. His name was Bob Bryan, B-R-Y-A-N-T, Bryant. And he was an excellent geology teacher, and we hit it off real well and did a lot of research and field trips and stuff like that. And I really, he was a good fellow.
In high school, what did you do for recreation?
Other than getting kicked out, the only thing I did was I hunted and fished, and I did all that all the time. This is Tahlequah, so I mean we have plenty of rivers and places to hunt and fish, so that's what I did.
Float the Illinois River?
Raised on it. I used to walk all over that river fishing and hunting all over the woods, so yeah.
This is a nice area around here.
It's a beautiful area, yeah. When I was young, we lived out south of Tahlequah, about 5 miles, so I always had a friend who lived in town, so he'd come out and spend the night, and I'd take my dogs, and some night we'd just walk to town with the dogs, and we'd kill raccoons and possums and skunks and stuff on the way, and then we'd get them to his house, and then we'd skin them and put their hides and tan them out, and then we'd take them down and sell them for $0.25 apiece. Long time ago.
After high school, what did you do?
I was fortunate enough to join the Army.
Did you enlist or were you drafted?
I enlisted. I had to get out of Tahlequah.
When did you enlist?
May the 29th, 1965.
So you graduated high school in 1965. 65, okay. Where'd you go for basic training?
I went to Fort Polk, Louisiana.
Fort Polk. Tell me about basic.
It was a lovely place. I enjoyed it down there. It's nice and refreshing and warm. People loved you. And at this time, Vietnam was not, full scale. It wasn't going strong. So they talked about, may have to go or do something like that, but it wasn't the top priority at the time I went through basic training.
What type of training did you have?
just regular basic training. You learn how to shoot, and which I already knew all the stuff that they'd done because I grew up in Boy Scouts and Explorers, so I already had an idea of what was going on. But we got to run and have Chinese fire drills and the fun things that that everybody does when they go through basic. Learning how to take orders and how to do push-ups real well and this kind of stuff.
Did you have ROTC at Northeastern?
No.
Okay.
No.
How about the gas chamber?
They didn't put me in there.
Didn't go to the gas chamber?
No, I wasn't at Auschwitz or Dachau, either one.
No. Yeah, basic. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I went to gas chamber.
Yeah.
It wasn't too bad.
What's your most vivid memory of basic?
My most vivid memory is when I got into trouble and they made me crawl underneath the barracks, which was, about 2 feet off the ground. And they built the barracks over trees and stumps. And I had to use a spoon out of the mess kit and dig that stump up.
What'd you do?
I dug it up.
I mean, why'd you have to do that?
I don't remember what I did, but I just remember having to do it.
Tell me about your drill instructors.
Well, when I was down there, they were from the some of them from Oklahoma National Guard that were doing their AT down there, evidently. And I had some of them that were down there.
Mm-hmm. Were they good guys?
I didn't have any trouble whatsoever with any of them. No.
Did they have Tigerland down there in those days?
No, they didn't.
Okay.
No, I said this before Vietnam started.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a few advisors over there, but it wasn't full-fledged. See, in May, the cab didn't even go. I think what, in June.
I think so.
June or July, something like that, is when the cab went over. So this was before they went over.
Tell me about bivouac.
Which bivouac?
In basic.
What do you mean bivouac? We didn't go out and stay anywhere.
You didn't?
No.
Oh.
No, we didn't do that. The only time we went out was for night firing.
Okay. Basic lasted how long?
6 weeks. I think that's what it was.
After that, where'd you go?
After that, I went to my AIT, which was in Fort Dix, New Jersey.
What'd you do there?
Learned how to, or relearn how to do Morse code and be a radio operator. See, I'd already learned all that before when I was in Boy Scouts. So I already knew Morse code, but I had to do it a lot faster and for a different purpose.
Did you request communications or were you assigned?
Yeah, I requested my communications when I went in.
What type of radios did you have in AIT?
Gosh, in AIT we didn't have the radios. We used keys.
Okay.
We were in Fort Dix. It was an old cavalry post. Mm-hmm. So our classrooms were in the stalls where the horses were. They'd made that into our area, but no, we did keys, and then the radio, voice radio was whatever they had back there. Just I didn't pay any attention to what they were at the time.
How many words a minute could you take in Morse code?
I think I had to send and receive 17 to graduate.
Okay. And AIT lasted how long?
Oh, I don't know. It's probably 6-8 weeks, something like that.
You get to New York City?
The World's Fair, since you brought that up, the World's Fair was going on in New York City at that time at Flushing Meadows. And since we listened to Beep, Beep, Beep all the time, they gave us almost 3-day passes every weekend. So therefore, I went to New York City about every weekend. And little country boy got educated in a big city, I promise you that. And I wasn't old enough to drink. See, that's bad because I was just 17 and a half, so I wasn't even old enough to drink. But I drank anyway. I've got a lot of pictures with Jack Dempsey and some more of that stuff, some of the old people up there, and I met a lot of people up there, a lot of friends.
So, what do you remember about the World's Fair?
I guess there was a lot of things I enjoyed about the World's Fair. Really did. I mean, it was free because you were in the military. We wore our uniforms in. We wore khakis. And if you wore a uniform, you got in free. We didn't know that, but we learned. So we would do that. But I liked the PA to Michelangelo's.
Yeah.
Okay, it was there. And I really enjoyed seeing that.
What was the reaction of the people in New York City to you being from Oklahoma?
They'd always ask me, where are you from? You know, that's a normal question we always give whenever we go to some other state, and they say, where are you from anyway? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, back in those days, everybody was fine. You know, there wasn't any war, any protesters or anything else going on. So we didn't have that. They weren't spitting that time.
So after AIT, where'd you go?
Then I went to jump school at Fort Benning, Georgia.
You request jump school?
Oh yeah, that was part of my enlistment deal. I had to go to jump school because my father was a paratrooper. Okay. And he always told me growing up that you don't have what it takes to be one, and so I had to prove him wrong, mm-hmm. like we always do.
Now, being 17, did your parents have to sign for you?
My mother did. My dad wouldn't.
Yeah.
Just like when I got married, when I got back too, the same thing. You had to be 21 then, so you had to be 21.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mom always signed for me. Dad wouldn't ever do it.
So tell me about jump school.
Oh, it was a lovely experience. I enjoyed it also. I'd been running already, so I was in good shape. And so I just, I went to jump school and did the jumps and everything that transpired. And then my dad came down to pin my wings on for graduation. I was a second generation paratrooper, since he was right after the test platoon when they first started paratroopers in the United States Army. So his old instructors that he had with him were the original test platoons. So he had a little bit of experience, and he knew some of them. And whenever I went to jump school, he found a couple of them that he knew down there. So needless to say, they had a big time, and he had a room. He and Mom came down to watch my graduation. So I got to go over there. The sergeant major of the jump school came over and picked me up, and I said, what did I do? He said, oh, your parents here. I'm going to take you over there. So we went to a hotel in town. I got to have my first drink of whiskey. I didn't like it too good. This wasn't drank it straight, so I didn't do good, so I just had sipped on it and forgot it. And then he took me back, when it was over with, he took me back to post, and then Dad watched me make a couple more jumps the next day, and then graduation.
What do you think when you were doing your first jump?
I was psyched up and adrenaline was running, so I don't remember. I liked it, enjoyed it, felt good.
How many jumps did you make in jump school?
In jump school, it was only 5 jumps.
5 jumps. Okay. What's your most vivid memory of jump school?
Gosh, I don't know. We ran all the time, and push-ups and pull-ups, and the harness, and 34-foot tower was probably about as scary. Well, I went to the 250-foot towers, and when I went up to them, they pull you up and they drop you. And they were yelling at me down there, and I didn't hear a word, and I was pulling the slip trying to, I couldn't hear them until I got down there, because I was pulling this way. When I was pulling the front risers, I was going down faster, and they said, pull the back riser, pull it, and I just kept on doing it. Boy, I hit, and I just started rolling. But it's okay. I enjoyed it.
So after jump school, where'd you go?
I was lucky enough to be invited over to the Republic of Vietnam to assist.
What unit were you assigned to?
The 1st Cavalry Division, 1st Brigade, Airborne, 2nd Battalion, 8th Cavalry Airborne, 1st Cavalry Division, Air Mobile. Headquarters and headquarters company.
So you left the States from where?
I left from Fort Benning, Georgia.
Okay.
And we flew from Fort Benning to Seattle, Washington. And then from Seattle, we flew over to Japan and then to Saigon.
Mm-hmm. What did you think about going to Vietnam?
I was young and dumb. I was all fired up and ready to, win the hearts and minds of the the populace.
Was Vietnam was it heating up at this time?
Well, they'd already had the Battle of the Ia Drang. There'd been some few small skirmishes over there, but nothing major until the Ia Drang. And so there wasn't a whole lot of. They weren't worried because they really hadn't got organized over there. Really, they were just sporadic here and there, so they weren't real organized. As time went by, they got more organized.
Now, where's your base camp in Vietnam?
Camp Radcliffe, which is in An Khê.
Hong Kong Mountain.
I've got pictures of it. Yeah.
So, what'd you do in Vietnam?
I was a RTO. I was in
You were what?
RTO, radio telephone operator.
Okay.
And usually what I did is I was in headquarters, and so we operated. We ran some landlines occasionally if we had to. We did whatever it took in headquarters company. So, but we were the communication at the battalion level.
Oh, I didn't ask. When did you land in Vietnam?
I don't know.
Was it?
Oh, okay. Well, I guess it was too. It had to been December 2nd.
65.
Okay.
So, you meet any of the guys that were in the Battle of Ia Drang?
They were back when I finally got to base camp and got it to my unit. Yeah, we had several guys that were there and several that weren't, that were in the Ia Drang. The 2nd of the 8th, I found out later in life, is that we started the mess off at Pleiku, and that movie, The Green Beret, when that Special Forces camp that was out there that got overrun, well, that's where we started. And we stirred them up right there, and then they hopscotched because the 8th was here, and then they brought in the 7th, which is in Pleiku province, but they were in the Ia Drang and Amur in that area. So they got it, and then they had the 9th on down. They had different parts of the cavalry there deployed. And so, yeah, when I got there in 65, some of the guys were licking wounds and telling, what happened, and nurturing their wounds and telling war stories and lies and stuff like normal GIs do, and having a beer occasionally. Mm-hmm. But it was all hot because we had no ice or anything back in those days. Just kind of like I was lucky enough when I did the same thing in Afghanistan. We didn't have any ice or anything when we got there because we were expeditionary. So
I got used to drinking hot beer in Vietnam.
Yeah, I did too. We didn't have that much of it. We didn't get it that often. I think we got it 2 times. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's all we had in beer ration.
Mm-hmm. So whenever how do you deploy over there in Vietnam?
How did I deploy?
Yes.
I had my radio on my back.
You go up by helicopter? Do you walk?
Oh yes, yeah. Well, from our area we went over to the golf course, which is the helipad, yep. And we loaded up in the helicopters that were assigned to the 1st Brigade and the 2nd BA, and we all had our gear on, all our weapons, our radios, and sometimes we had to haul the 292 antenna. It's a big old bag with the pole that you had to stick up for reaching out a little further than in the jungle.
And what radio were you carrying?
I was carrying a PRC 25.
Now, what is a PRC 25?
It's just a handheld is just a radio that fed on your back that weighed somewhere around maybe 20 pounds.
Okay.
And you just carry that on your back, and you can either have a speaker on it or you had a handset that you talked on. It had key. You could also use a key, but we never used keys in Vietnam.
Is it battery operated?
Yes, it was a battery operated.
How long those batteries last?
Depends on how often you used them, how much you used them. Sometimes in the heat of things, you stayed on the mic all the time, and the more you were transmitting, the shorter period of time it lasted. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'm hoping you're going to embellish because we know that, some of these things I don't remember. You know as much of this stuff as I do, or probably more.
No, I was there after you.
Yeah, well, I already had it won by the time you got there, so it wasn't a big deal. When'd you get there?
August 17th, 1967.
66. God, yeah, I already had it won. Hell, there was nothing left to do except clean up a little bit.
50 years ago last month.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you missed it.
Yeah, I did. I missed
all
it.
the
Yeah.
fun.
Well, people asked me, said, "What unit were you in?" And I said, "I was with the Cav." The Cav. I said, "Yeah." I said, "There was only 2 units in Vietnam. You had the 1st Cavalry, and then you had subordinate units." And they didn't like that, especially the 25th and some of the other guys. They didn't think that was too funny, but I had to say it anyway.
So
I still tell them that.
how long would you stay out when you deployed?
Long time. In fact, the year I was there, I probably only got to stay in base camp maybe a full week. Mm-hmm. The rest of the time I was in the woods, in the jungle.
Now, how'd you set up your position at night?
Well, as battalion headquarters, we were in the center. We usually had a couple of companies surrounding the area, and when we set up, we had to dig in and set up all the equipment, and get radio communication, and set up watches and all this kind of thing. So yeah, when we set up, we had our own area that we had to take care of, and we do sit reps all the time, each hour on all the companies and platoons and everything. So that was my job when we went to the field, is I took care of the communications to the battalion headquarters.
Were there mainly Viet Cong or NVA down there at that time?
Mostly at that time it was just Cong, but we had a few NVA that came through.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a couple Chinese and that kind of stuff, but every now and then you'd run across someone that was probably advising someone else, is all we could figure what was going on at the time.
When you were in your first firefight, what were you thinking?
Scared.
What'd you do?
Well, I didn't run. No, first firefight, we just stayed down and everybody returned fire, and it didn't last too long. Mm-hmm. It wasn't long on the first one, so that was pretty good. They got your feet wet, at least kind of wet your whistle. That way, next time you're better prepared and knew more of what you needed to do and how you needed to do it. Nothing straightens you out like a good little bullet coming by your head, kind of makes you wake up and know what's going on.
What weapon were you carrying?
I had the M16 and a 45, the old M16 that had the 3-prong little deal on the end of the barrel. The only thing it was good for was opening sea ration boxes.
Yes, and wait a minute vines.
Yeah, and that was about it. But
you have trouble with your weapon jamming?
I never had. I always grew up cleaning weapons and hunting around here, so I kept my weapon clean. A lot of the city boys that never fired weapons or anything until they got in the military, they didn't know what they were doing, and they got out there and they didn't take care of their weapons, and they had some problems. But if you took care of your weapon, I didn't really have any problem with it, ever.
What was the reaction of the local people to you, Vietnam?
Well, it depends on where you're talking about. Downtown on K, or where you talking?
Yes, downtown on K.
Oh yeah, well, that was before they built Sin City for you gentlemen. But we had downtown, and we'd go down there. We weren't allowed to go at night because during the daytime, we could go, but at night, Viet Cong came in. So they had all the GIs during the day, and then at night the Viet Cong came in, and all the bars and all that kind of stuff. Name them everything, and all the lovely ladies, they were there. But we'd go down and get a haircut, and strangest thing, because they use razors and stuff to shave your ears, and then they take like a tuning fork and stick in your ear and all this kind of stuff. This wild stuff that I know. The first time I went to town, I was walking down, I said, boy, somebody's bleeding bad, and I kept looking on the ground. I mean, it's just all over the place. I said, man, they must have had a firefight or something, because there's blood all over the ground. And I found out later it was the lychee nuts, the beetle nuts, the old ladies chew.
Yes.
Well, they was just chewing, they spit, and I mean, it looked like blood, and it's all over the ground. I said, man, what in the world? And then somebody told me what it was. That's when they smile, they don't Their teeth are black.
Oh, I know. I saw this nice looking woman. I smiled, and she smiled. Her teeth were black.
Yeah, well, it's better than around here. They don't have any teeth.
Yeah.
Since everybody around here is on it now, crank or whatever the stuff is. Yeah. Yeah.
You were in Vietnam how long?
I was there 13 months.
13 months.
Yeah.
So you got there. How often would you come back to base camp?
How long before I came back the first time?
Yes.
I think I was out, gosh, I don't seem like it's about a month, something like that, maybe a little over a month. When I first did that, yeah.
And how long would you stay at base camp?
2 or 3 days, 4 days maybe.
Then back out again?
Head right back out, yeah. We were always moving all the time. Always moving. So I mean, that was one of the luxuries of having helicopters. They could pick you up and drop you all the time wherever they wanted to, and made it nice. Yeah, I tried to get out of carrying a radio. I wanted to be a door gunner, like some people I know, but they didn't want me. They had to have me there as a radio operator. They wouldn't let me. They wouldn't let me go.
Who was your commanding officer?
The battalion commander's name was Hemphill. He was Lieutenant Colonel. And then I had my officer his name was Frank Trapnell. He retired as a full colonel. He just died here the other day.
Tell me about it.
6-8 months ago. His father was a 4-star general. He was a first lieutenant, and seemed like his dad was in the I won't say he was in the Air Force or something, but he was a very, very smart guy, and he acted. You know, he was first lieutenant, so he was a lot, several years older than mine. He acted like a kid all the time, always laughing, having a good time. He's really a likable guy, nice guy. And he became after he was our battalion or company commander, he went to G2 Air, and he was G2 Air, so I got to go with him once or twice, and then he started carrying his own radio, so I didn't get to go anymore.
G2, that's intelligence, isn't
Right,
it?
yeah, he did, going out and surveying the areas and looking for things and taking pictures. And,
what about the terrain in Vietnam?
well, there's a little bit of whatever you want. Around the South China Sea, you got the nice beaches and the waves and stuff, and then you go up north, you got some mountains that are pretty good size, awful big. Then you got the canopy of the jungle, which is always nice and warm and feeling well with a little bit of rain every now and then.
Monsoon season.
Yes, it's lovely.
Tell me about the monsoons.
Well, what does it say? It's just, if you've ever been rained on forever and ever, you wake up wet, you go to bed wet, you stay wet. The leeches are out at that time, so they like you also. But yeah, everything you have rots off your body. It just completely rots. That's when I learned that, don't wear underwear over there because it rotted off and it caused you to keep rot and everything else. So
Yeah.
but I started wearing it when I came back home. I started wearing underwear again because but over there you had to, adapt to the climate and the people and the surroundings, and so that's
Is jungle rot a problem over there?
I still suffer from it after all these years. Yeah, my feet, between my toes and stuff, I can't let anybody, like a massage or something, I can't let anybody touch my feet because if they stick their finger between my toes, they start bleeding and they hurt. It's ridiculous, but that's the way it was. I still get stuff coming off my hands, and I don't know. I think it's jungle rot. I hope it's not Agent Orange, but I was kind of thinking it more like it's jungle rot or malaria, one or the other.
What was Agent Orange?
It was a defoliant. It was produced by some of these wonderful people from DuPont that had some kind of a military contract that made many, many, many millions of dollars. And they didn't know what harm it would produce. But after several years, they finally realized that there were some problems with what they were doing and spraying it on their own men and virtually killing their own people. And you know this, so yeah.
So you went, how many firefights were you in?
I have no idea. I cannot answer that question because I don't know. Several. More than I really want to remember, and I try to forget.
What's your best memory of Vietnam?
My best memory of Vietnam. You know what? I don't know. I guess my best memory would be being with my brothers and a big family. You know, just that would probably be my best memory, being very close and being with my brothers.
What's your worst memory of Vietnam?
Going to Vietnam. I don't know. There was too many worse memories at the time. Mm-hmm. You know, there was just too much blood and too many people hurt and killed, and I guess probably the first one I saw, I guess, was when we were out on a LZ, and there was no major. There was no major that was over there, and he was making everybody police around where we had artillery there. Mm-hmm. And he was making them police around right there, and he walked in front of a 105 howitzer on a fire mission, and he blew his head off. And you could just see his helmet going there, and he was laying there with his feet kicking, you know. And I said, damn, that was the first wonderful big idea I got, you know. And it just so happens that about almost 50 years later, I was in Afghanistan talking to a full colonel chaplain, and he asked me if I'd ever seen a man with his head blown off by a big gun. I said, yeah, I saw a major in Vietnam that got his head blown off. And I wanted to kind of snicker a little bit because, I mean, he was supposedly, you know, was he making a police call out there in the jungle? So, and he said, that was my stepfather. I said, this many years, he was with the 101st Airborne. Yeah. And yeah, he said, you're the second person I've ever known that was there. I said, gee, yeah. And we had some of those things, and guys walking a long time ago, whenever they had hand grenades, and used to, the hand grenades, you know, the pin, you know, you kept the pin where you could pull it out, but the little handle, sometimes they'd break off and you couldn't carry them, you know, it was hard to carry. Mm-hmm. And we had one pop. The guys, they had a whole platoon walking down a riverbank. Hand grenade came loose and blew up, and I think there's about 8 or 9 guys got hurt pretty bad from that, for our own hand grenades. So after that, they started, when the hand grenades got bad, you got rid of them. Mm-hmm. Couldn't carry them no more. So we'd take them and go fishing with them. You know, we just, if they were, you know, good, we'd just take them to the river and see if we could get some fish.
Mm-hmm. What about booby traps?
There was a lot of those and the whips. And
what kind of booby traps?
Oh, I've got some back here. You want to see some?
Yeah.
I've got some punji stakes back here, and I've got the little wooden, look like a wooden block that's got a shell coming through it. When you step on it, it goes through, and it goes through your foot. I've got some of the crow's feet, the little wire things, you know, that all these wonderful things they stuck in their feces. I've got some of those back there. Mm-hmm. But no, then they had, you know, some of the stuff that wired, you know, sometimes they had some shells and stuff, you know, grenades they booby trapped around too, but most of the time it was always this kind of small stuff, you know, to get you hurt. That way it'd take 2 or 3 people to get you out of there, and, you know, kept you busy. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, I heard that they wanted to wound someone, not kill them.
That's usually the way they did.
Yeah.
Because it took 2 or 3 or 4 to get you, you know, either on the stretcher, depends on how bad you're hurt, you know, whether they get you on the stretcher or get away, but either way, sometimes it took several to help you to get to a place where you could be extracted anyway. That was one of the beauties of having helicopters. You could get extracted instead of having to stay out there forever.
Now, were you a radio operator the whole time you were in Vietnam?
Yes, I was.
How, you were in the jungle, what percentage, and in base camp, what percentage?
I was in the jungle about 98%. Mm-hmm. We didn't have the luxury of coming in, and there wasn't anything back in base camp anyway. The only thing that, you know, they moved our base camp when we were there, or our area, so it sure made me mad because all my photos that I taken when I first got there, like everybody does, they all got wet. I had brand new jump boots. They got wet and they turned green, and rotted, and so yeah, we had our stuff piled in the tent when we got there the first time we came back out of the field. That upset me, but other than that, it wasn't, base camp wasn't too bad. We had, I never got to see Bob Hole, and I mean, of course, I've seen him on everything he'd ever done from the 40s all the way up through, till here just a few years ago before he died, that he was still going out doing USO shows. But
I saw him at Long Bend '68.
Yeah.
He had Ann Margaret with him.
Really, yeah. Well, I never got to see him. I wanted to, but never had the opportunity. I got to see, I think, Bobby Rydell, and I think that's the only one I got, that I got his signature on a P note.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be MPC, I'm not sure what it is, but I got a signature on something.
What about the wildlife over there?
Yeah, there's a little of that. Yeah, there was lots of wildlife over there. We had some wild hogs. We had some lions, not lions, but tigers. Had a tiger field over there. There's some monkeys, a lot of snakes, spiders. In fact, when they were clearing, before you got there, the golf course, some guys found an 18-foot king cobra there that they were holding, 18 feet long. Well, if he'd have hit you, you'd have been dead in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But they had those little wait a minute snakes too that, they'd zap you too pretty good. But you can always kept your eye peeled, but it wasn't that big a deal. You was worried about somebody else shooting you rather than getting bit by a snake. Usually, unless they were just really, really mean, they didn't really bother you. But you got in their space, they'd let you know about it.
You could go on R&R?
Yeah, I went back to, before I got to go on R&R, I went to the hospital. I had malaria, so I had I was in Japan in the hospital with malaria. And then I came back, and after another month or two, I got to go on R&R. So naturally, since I'd met a nurse when I was in the hospital, and naturally, soldier always falls in love with his nurse, so there I was. So I went back to Japan. We went to the Ginza and had a good time. She was a lieutenant. We got in a lot of trouble. She got reprimanded, and so did I.
Fraternizing.
Yeah, definitely she did. She did. And then it was funny because I came back to the States. I was stationed at Fort Bragg, and she put in to go to Vietnam, and she went to Vietnam. When she was in a rocket attack, hell, she got a Purple Heart. I said, you wasn't moving fast enough. I got to tell those boys over in Afghanistan, that's what they said. We don't want any of those fast-moving, slow-moving medals around here. They call them Purple Hearts are slow-moving medals. If you're moving slow, you're going to get hit. You just move fast and you're safe. So I didn't want any of those. So I was lucky enough not to ever have one.
Didn't work for me.
Well, you wasn't moving fast enough.
Yes, I was.
Were you in a helicopter?
No, we had a mortar attack at night. I was running toward the bunker, and we had those 65-gallon drums cut out, and I grabbed one and slung myself in and sliced both hands open, and about 2 weeks later, here came a Purple Heart.
Oh, we don't.
I cut my hands open. I said, well, that's not enough.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah, well, they did. Sometimes they were, when we first went there, we had some old soldiers that, they wouldn't give you any kind of medal or anything that, that they didn't have. So they were really pretty stingy about that stuff when I went over there because they were used to the old system, that you had to really be hurt. Some of the guys, they said, they had whips or this, that, and the other kind of stuff that hit them. And they got Purple Hearts. I got some shrapnel in my leg, but I dug it out and went on. I didn't worry about it. So I went on. So, I don't need Purple Heart.
I didn't ask for mine.
Yeah, I didn't want one.
Yeah.
So I said, no, I'm okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You went on R&R to Japan?
Mm-hmm.
That's the only R&R you had?
Yep, that was it.
What USO shows came through?
The only one I said that I got to see, I don't know what came through. I know that Bob Hope and everybody had been to there, but I was only in one time whenever there was a show there, and that was, like I said, Bobby Rydell was there, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess he was, in the 50s, I guess, early. Yeah, I guess he was in the 50s with Bobby Rydell, but that was the only the only person I saw in Vietnam.
How about laundry? How'd you keep your uniforms clean?
Well, sometimes you take your laundry and bundle them up. Usually it rotted off of you because you wore it all the time when you're in the field. And usually, if you found a stream or something, you could try to rinse it out and stuff. Try to clean some of it out. But if you had some soap with you, but mostly we didn't carry that stuff. So after it rotted off, and then when we were back in base camp, if we were there, they would come by. They'd set up laundry facilities so you could take your laundry and put it in a bag and put your name on it. And they'd do it for you and bring it back. Mm-hmm. They did have some places downtown, best I remember, that did it, but like cost I think like 50 cents or something like that, a quarter or 50 cents to do the wash and pressure uniforms.
I remember during the monsoon season, we'd take off a wet, dirty fatigue and go to supply and put it on a clean, wet fatigue.
yeah, that's about the truth. Yeah.
What did you carry on your person when you're out in the field?
Carry my what?
What did you carry on your person besides the radio and your weapon?
Well, let's say you had your canteens, your canteen cup and cover. You had your mess kit because you had to have that. Usually, I carried a radio with extra batteries. The helmet, I kept. Let's see what else I carried. Always tried to keep socks in the pack, and I quit wearing underwear, so I didn't have to do that. I had a towel. Usually kept a towel in there to, keep a wet towel I could put around my neck if I needed to when it's real hot, real bad. Sometimes shaving kit. Do shave out there, but not very often. But it depends on where we were. But we were back the old system where you had to be shaving all the time. So there was no getting out of it. You had to shave. So that's what we did.
You have artillery support.
Yes, we had several times we've had artillery support.
Now, where were they based?
I've got a banner in there that shows all the 1st Brigade, but it was the 2nd and 19th Artillery that we had, and they were airborne also in the 1st Brigade.
Now, would they go out with you, the
yes.
artillery?
Well, not always. No, it depends on where we were going, because we could be going to another area that some other brigade or something that had, they had their support there and they were there. So, but we were out, and usually around where battalion headquarters was, we didn't have any artillery. They were always in another LZ or someplace like that. That way they could, when our troops went out to the field, they could direct fire from another location and not be right there with the guns going off right there around us. That was, cannon cockers, they make a lot of noise. So, they were usually at another LZ someplace around there. Pretty close that they could cover us if we needed support. Then they could always be, they could cover us.
Have the gunship support?
We had Puff and Smokey. Yeah, we had those.
And the Cobra gunships?
We didn't have any Cobras. Mm-hmm. That shows there early. My favorite helicopter was a Chinook.
Yeah.
I like the Chinook because.
Did they have the Chinook gunships when you were there?
No. The Puff kind of like the.
Well, they had 4 Chinook gunships. One was birth control. One was guns a go-go. They had 2 others. One shot itself down. One was shot down.
I don't remember. The only thing we had is that old C-46 or C-47 that had the cannons in it. But that was the first thing. I never saw any of the fancy stuff. Yeah, I was in the jungle, but we didn't have that luxury. We had the helicopter, and then we had the Caribou. Mm-hmm. I like the Caribou.
Yeah, Guns a Go-Go's in the Smithsonian now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I hadn't been to Smithsonian in
they had those when I first got them.
10 years.
And they did away with them. They said they were too unwieldy.
Yeah.
Too big and too good for target.
Yeah. Well, we had the flying crane came through one time.
Oh, yeah.
I got to see that. That was a thrill for a country boy.
Yeah, we had those when I was there.
Yeah. But other than that, we didn't have a whole lot, around there. We had the mules. And I used to like I thought that was a neat thing, the flatbed, the little mule,
Yep,
you know.
yep.
I thought
Drive
those were
around.
kind of neat to have to drive around on. I only got to do it a couple times, but I liked that.
We had those up at Camp Evans, running around all the place. How were you resupplied?
Always by helicopter.
How did you make a LZ for the helicopters?
Well, it depends if we had to, blow stuff up. We had engineers with us also, and they would usually, they could blow the trees down with, dead cord or stuff, or we could. It depends on what we're doing, or chop it down. But usually they try to find, for the battalion headquarters, they try to find a place, pretty close to some, to a field or something where they could land pretty easily and get the old man out in case he needed to go. So usually we were, find some places that were pretty good. We've been in the jungle quite a bit, but on that stuff right there, they tried to keep if they couldn't have a good clean LZ, then they'd blow it.
Who was the commanding general, first Cav, when you were there?
Let's see. I want to say it was Norton. I believe that's who it was.
It was Tolson, and I was there, John J. Tolson.
Well, okay. See, Tolson was after Norton.
Yeah.
Because Norton was first, and then Tolson took over. Tolson was in the 503rd with my dad. In fact, he was. Norton was there, and then Tolson came. I think Tolson took over because you were there 2 years after I was.
Yeah.
In a tour over there, because I want to say that Tolson was there because Dad knew Tolson, and he wrote him a letter, and Stars and Stripes came and interviewed me. That was, boy from, Tahlequah, Oklahoma, and this, that, and the other. My dad was second, paratrooper, and this, that, and the other. So, but anyway, I guess that's why I was kind of lucky enough to be in that situation.
Yeah, we all liked Tolson because he was an enlisted man in World War II. Came
Yeah.
up through the ranks.
Yeah.
And he stood up for his enlisted men.
That always helps.
Yep.
Just like you and I.
Yep. So, you left Vietnam when?
I left there in December of '66, late December, right about a week before Christmas.
Oh, I was in helicopter school then. What did you think about leaving Vietnam?
Leaving it? Well, I don't know what do you mean? What are you talking about leaving it?
When you were getting ready to leave Vietnam, what were you thinking?
I want to get home, like everybody does. We want to get home. You miss your friends, but you miss home more. So you want to, get out of there and get back to the world of the real world and the giant PX and all that kind of stuff. You want to get back. And
How was the PX system in Vietnam?
there wasn't one when I was there. We didn't have any. They had a Class 6, and but I never saw PX when I was there.
Did they change the MPC while you were there?
Yeah, they did. They changed it one time. I think they used to change it like every, I don't know, so often because the Viet Cong would steal,
Yes.
change it or reproduce or something. Yeah.
Have any trouble changing it?
No, when I came back in from the field, I usually, if we had the old stuff, they would change it for us there, base camp. But I wasn't back enough to have any. I sent about everything home. I didn't have any.
Yeah.
Didn't have any money.
So when you left Vietnam, you landed where in the States?
Oakland.
Oakland.
Yeah, that's when all the good protesters in California.
Did you have a protest there?
Well, there was a few people there when I got there. I got there real late at night, and they were still people, out there and saying nasty words to me and all that kind of stuff.
What did you think about that?
Well, that was kind of early. I wasn't used to it. I mean, they would, as time went by, a lot of it happened, and a lot of guys, ran into that. It wasn't real bad, they'd say a few words, but, and they'd spit, spit on I didn't have any spit in my face, but, spit on the ground, or they could have been spitting toward me, but I didn't know, but I didn't care. I was home, so I was happy, I didn't care.
So what'd you do when you got home?
When I got home, first thing I did is Mom cooked me big old breakfast, and then I had a big old pot of beans and cornbread, and I was happy. And then I went around, had to put my uniform on, and Dad took me around to all the people that were supporting me when I was in Vietnam, doctors and lawyers and stuff. Then he took me and I went around and thanking them, and that's kind of stuff, doing the stuff that, you know, Dad thought I should do, so that's what I did.
Okay. And then, when did you get your discharge?
I got discharged from the service in 1960, June 3rd, 1968, out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Now, when did you leave? You left,
I left Vietnam in 66.
66. So
Late
where were you
66.
based after Vietnam?
Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
What'd you do there?
I was an RTO for a while, and then I got into, had some, still had the ANGRC, the vehicle mounted radios, and we had still had some backpack, you know, radios, and had the Angry 47s, the ship to shore and air mode, we had all those things. But they were getting into teletype. That was when teletype was big. So we had these little rigs that we had teletype machines on, even in Jeeps. And we did that. You know, we had, my time in Bragg was spent kind of putting down rebellions, I guess. We went to Detroit and fought up there in the race riots. We went to Washington, D.C. and fought in the race riots.
What'd you do in the race riots?
I carried a radio by back with Prick 25 then.
Were you in Detroit?
Yeah.
What'd you do there?
Got in a lot of trouble.
Why?
Well, we had a lot of problems that were going on. There were a lot of people that were protesting, just like they did in Baltimore, and they were protesting all over the place, and they were burning things or breaking stuff. We had we locked and loaded, so I don't know where this is going, so I can't be real. You know, I have to be very vague on what I'm going to say, because there was a lot of the blacks would have fires, start fires, and firemen come and they'd shoot the firemen, and then we'd have to go shoot them off the top of the roofs. And I'm sure that when the city plumbers came around in the manholes, they found some of them. I don't know how they got there, but I'm sure that so sooner or later they found some of them in there, I'm sure. But that was bad. Baltimore was bad. D.C. and Raleigh.
Why were they rioting?
You know, they weren't happy. I don't understand that. I mean, gosh, they had everything in the world they wanted, but evidently they didn't. They thought they were being abused and put down, and the same stuff that they're still doing today.
Yeah.
It hasn't changed. Still has not changed. And I don't know, you know, when you get everything free, you don't appreciate it. And I guess they just don't appreciate anything because they get everything free. And the few that do work are very good people. And a bunch that don't work and live off what they're doing, I have no use for. And that's just life.
Yep.
You don't have to, you have to live with it, but you don't have to like it.
That's right. So after you were discharged, what'd you do?
After I was discharged, I came back and went to college.
Northeastern?
Yes, I went to Northeastern State University, or Northeastern State College, and then I graduated from there, started a business, and while I was going to university, I decided I was kind of missed military. So I went and enlisted in the National Guard down here, 120th Engineer Battalion. So I had 3 years active, but I had 3 years inactive, supposedly, on my deal. But I spent about a year going to school and doing that stuff, and then I joined the National Guard. So I like the smell of canvas, there's something about that smell that, you just like. So, or drinking out of a Lister bag, that's always nice too. So, but anyway, yeah, I did that, and they made me mess sergeant down here. So I liked that pretty good as a combat engineers. So the only combat engineers I saw was in Vietnam, and all they did was fill sandbags. But hell, we all did that, so that wasn't any big deal. And then I had a business, and then I went on and finished my master's degree. And then when I finished the master's degree, I transferred out of the National Guard into a civil affairs unit in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I really enjoyed that.
Now, when did you get your commission?
I got it in, let's see, 19, what, 70, 78.
You go to OCS?
No, I got a direct appointment.
I did too.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a direct appointment. I was an E7 at the time, and I was a mess sergeant, and I couldn't go any further where I was in the unit unless I went to another unit, and I liked the unit and its what they did. So I put in for direct appointment, and the only appointment I could get was for quartermaster. So I became a quartermaster officer, and I did the correspondence course for quartermaster, and then after that, they found I didn't want to be a quartermaster any longer. I didn't like it. I was civil affairs, so I went to civil affairs school, advanced school. So I went to Fort Bragg school.
With the 486th?
Yeah, I was in the 46
Yeah,
at the time.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. In fact, I met one of the old men down here in Tahlequah. Was in World War II. He was in Japan. He was in the 486th. In Japan.
It was military government back then.
Yeah, it was military government back then. He used to have a clothing store down here in Tahlequah, and I got his. In fact, I found his name. He had orders. I found his orders. They had them on there when he was back in. I said, gee, yeah. But he was a pretty nice man too.
What'd you do in the 486th?
Gosh, I did a little bit of everything. Like we all did. I guess I started off as a mess sergeant. And then they put you on different teams, which I've got some of the old books that we had, on what team we were on, like Koblenz or something. For the first few years I was there, we were on 15th Street at the old National Guard Armory over there, at the Reserve Center also, right there at the fairgrounds. So most of the time then we just pretty much, civil affairs was not doing too much of anything. We did a lot of correspondence courses and stuff. So the commander at the time recommended that everybody get books and do correspondence courses for their fields and this, that, and the other. So everybody during drills, everybody would be doing correspondence courses. So we did a lot of that to begin with, and then after a while, even our illustrious commander that everybody glorifies now, or did, Siegfried Haidt, he was the biggest ghost of the whole bunch. You could never find him. Herr Geist, the ghost.
Yep.
But he did have enough pull, and so we had a mission in Europe, and it started off in Germany, and so since he was such a fluent speaker, and he was already a Prussian anyway, and taught I think language or something, what he taught, but I knew his wife did, or he did, taught it at the Oral Roberts University, and so he got us somehow. He finagled and met some people or stuff, and got us a mission in Europe, in Germany, and so we were working in Germany quite a while at Kreuznach. That's where we were for quite a while, and we worked out of there doing different things, playing war games with the Germans and stuff. Mm-hmm. My area was in Mainz. I was at Mainz Castells where I was, and then after that they opened up Belgium, so I went to Belgium. I took over a province, Liège province in Belgium. So that was my AO, that was an OIC of in that area. And I enjoyed Belgium very much.
What did you do in the summer camps in Europe?
Usually we were still preparing for Russia to come across the Fulda Gap, and everybody was always worried about that. Everybody did. So we went to the communities and talked to the mayors and all these people about, you know, the situation we were in and what would transpire if something happened. We did surveys of places to get water or food, or had food, you know, pre-positioned areas.
Area studies.
So we had those areas that we set up with those areas, and then after that when they started tearing down the wall over there, it opened up a little bit freer, so you could move around a little bit and do some more things, and the threat wasn't there any longer. So I think I want to say I was still, I went to Bad Croissant for something anyway. I was still in Mainz. I was in Mainz Castell, but we had some of the old 486, and we all got together and got a van, and we drove to Berlin when they tore down the wall. So we were over there when the wall was getting tore down, and we got some samples of the wall, and all the gypsies that came through, all the Russians, they were getting rid of all their stuff, their belts, their hats, uniforms, everything. So I ended up, I got belts, and I've got a mink hat, and I've got a bunch of, you know, all kinds of stuff from Russia there in Berlin. And then we looked around Berlin, and you know, that one old building in Berlin that's, you know, it's bombed out from World War II, that they always take a picture of, whatever, in the park right there.
The Reichstag?
No, not the I saw the Reichstag, but no, there was an old building that was there that was, they kept as a monument.
Oh, that's that church.
Yeah, there's an old church was there, and it was still standing. So took a picture of that and knocked around there a little while, and they were having a marathon there, so you know, we kind of watched them go by and had fun doing that, and drank a lot of beer, went to Volks marches, you know, to interacting with the communities, and they accepted us very well. It was a very good area.
Now, did you go to Bosnia?
No. When you and see Jim Holland and no, I didn't go to Bosnia. That was somebody else. See, you and Holland went to the first Desert Storm.
The Desert Storm.
Yeah, you guys went to that. See.
Did you go to Desert Storm?
No.
Okay.
We had a mission down south. Remember?
Yes.
I went to Panama.
Okay.
So I was protecting your lower halves. I went to Just Cause down there with Noriega. So that's where I was. And then also I was.
Were you in Just Cause?
Yeah.
What'd you do?
I was an RTO there also. No, I wasn't. No, I was a lieutenant colonel. I wasn't as a captain, I believe, then. But in Just Cause, we worked around with some of the Panamanians in the Panamanian government, and where Noriega had his house and stuff, and had the torture chambers and all that stuff right there by it. And we did a lot of interviewing with a lot of people, and tried to make peace and try to help them get back, you know, some of the stuff that they'd been destroyed down there. The whole thing didn't last that long, but there was a lot of animosity and a lot of problems down there at the time.
Now, when you were being sent to, was Noriega still in power when you went down there?
No, we just no. He was in power, yeah, when we got there. But that's when the Agent Second jumped in. See.
Yeah. What were you thinking going to Panama with Noriega?
Didn't know what to think. I thought we'd be in the jungle, you know, doing the stuff, but it wasn't. It was like, you know, urban warfare on what is it? Urban warfare on, or what is it? Something warfare on urban terrain. I forgot. We built a city out here at Camp Gruber.
Yeah.
Urban warfare on something on urban terrain. Some guerrilla warfare on urban terrain or something like that. I forgot the word that we used to use. It's been a few years since we used these words, or even, thought about it, but.
So it was mainly in Panama City?
Yeah, we were around Panama City is where we were.
What's your most vivid memory of Panama, Just Cause?
Probably the most vivid was, I've got a book written by a guy that was down there right before that, In the Time of Tyrants, and Noriega was a tyrant.
Unknown caller.
I was trying not to do that. I'm sorry, I apologize. But the torture chambers that they used to take all the people there, I mean, he didn't care about anything. He gave everybody, he had his own personal, like a business card, and if you got one of those, you were safe, you could go around. But if you didn't have one, you had a problem. And in Panama, see, they don't have, I mean, the hospitals are, they had two main hospitals in the city of Panama. One was for people that kind of had injury and stuff, and then they had one that was like a welfare hospital that, because if you don't have money down there, you starve to death because they don't have a welfare system. They don't give food or anything else. You starve to death. So that was pretty bad down there. I wasn't used to third world countries, you know, getting to that. Vietnam was, I thought Vietnam was third world. Gosh, Vietnam was way above what he was doing, or the people that did in Afghanistan. They're way above those.
I didn't ask, did you go through the villages in Vietnam?
Mm-hmm.
What'd you do?
Whatever I had to do. Tried to do whatever I had to do. I didn't pull any Lieutenant William Calley stuff, but a few of them we had to torch. A few of them we always look for caches of, you know, weapons and stuff. That's just you did stuff just unconsciously because you've done it so many times that, you know, you don't even think about.
In the villages, what was the reaction of people to you?
They usually, sometimes depends on who'd been in the village or who was watching them or whatever. A lot of times they would sit back and wouldn't do anything. I mean, they sit way back. A lot of times the kids may come out to us, you know, and do that stuff, but we were always leery of that because they were still, kids were still getting hand grenades and throwing at you and all this kind of stuff, and you had to do something with them.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, you always had to be on your tippy toes. But you learn as time goes by that, you know, how to take care of yourself.
I learned over there to watch the kids. The kids would tell you what's going on.
Usually they did.
Yes.
Usually they would. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they weren't under the same influence.
Just by the kids, what they were doing, you could tell what was going on.
Yeah, just to watch them, you could see if they could see the expression on their face, or their parents back, or pulling them back, or because you knew that if that was happening, that somebody was around keeping an eye on something, or some of those in the city itself, you know, could have been Viet Cong. Mm-hmm. You just never know. Mm-hmm. That's one of the bad things there, but Afghanistan the same way. Same kind of deal.
So Afghanistan.
Yeah, I know where it is.
Yeah. Tell me about getting ready to go to Afghanistan.
Well, I moved onward and upward in my ranks, so I went to the 321st Civil Affairs Brigade in San Antonio, Texas. When I got there, there was 2 or 3 of the old 486 boys down there. Siegfried Hite was there, and Ralph Haynes, and they both DD-Ma'd when they heard we was going to be, they decided to retire, or when we was going to Afghanistan. And Dale Ellis, we were all down there together. So they stayed there for a while, and then when we got orders to go, then I loaded up and went with them.
What did you do in Afghanistan?
I was a PRT commander.
What?
Provincial Reconstruction Team.
Okay. So what was your job over there?
I was a commander of a team that, we were in Kandahar. My province was Kandahar. And basically we joined up, I was with the 82nd Airborne when they were there. And they did the door knocking down, and what we did is we'd go and we'd talk to the mullahs and stuff like this.
Talk to who?
The mullahs, the mayors.
Yeah.
And the chieftains or whatever of this different cities in their area, and talk to them about trying to win their hearts and minds by, you know, building them a well, or, you know, trying to help them out. Mm-hmm. And I never forget when we first went to one place, we talked to the man. It was a large city. It's probably, you know, probably 2,000 people there. Yeah. And we asked him, you know, what he thought about, you know, that the Russians had pulled out, and he said, I didn't know the Russians were here. I mean, they're so clannish and so standoffish, he didn't even know the Russians had been there. And so they don't communicate because each little town is almost one little tribe, and they don't intermingle. If they do, they're fighting. So they fight each other all the time. So it was a mess over there trying to talk to them, but we got to talk to a few, but we had some, you could tell there were some bad people, because usually when we'd go out, we'd always take an interpreter and a couple of soldiers from the commander there, the Afghan commander, due to the fact that we went through a lot of poppy fields and marijuana fields and stuff. And the Afghans didn't own them. There was big bad people that owned them, so they had to take those other people with us with machine guns to make sure that, we were safe to driving by them because, they were growing their crop. So we did some of that. We helped build some. There was a dam. They had an electric dam, and they'd blown it up. The Taliban had blown it up, and we were trying to get generators to that so we could operate the gates so they could have their electricity and stuff. They were partially running, but they only had one tube that's about 3 feet across. It was the only water they had running through there for a creek or for a river, and it had one little generator trying to turn the supply generator when they had a generator up on top of the hill that if it was going, they could raise the gate and have a lot more water coming through to do it. But they'd burn it up, and they'd try to, the gate out there, they tried to cut, had big, cable about the size of your thumb out there. The Taliban was trying to cut that in two and blow it up, and just anything cultural they didn't like, so they tear it up. They wanted to be in the Stone Ages, and pretty much they were. They pretty much were. I used to write. I was writing articles for my newspaper back here until I was comparing, Afghanistan to Vietnam, and I got a few articles I found the other day back here when I was writing, and I had a grunt's view of Afghanistan was my picture, and they had me laying in a hammock with my weapon across me, that was my signature in the newspaper until sometime somebody over there was Googling or something and found the article. And so then it went to the general, and the general got two full colonels to come down and asked me if I had permission to write these things and what I was writing and this, that, and the other, if I talked to the POR or PAR or whatever it was. And I said, no, I didn't. I didn't have time. I said, I talked to one, and he said, well, go ahead, we'll find out. So I was writing, so then they immediately told me to cease and desist, writing from a newspaper. And I had an Iridium phone at the time over there because you can't communicate in Afghanistan because the Hindu Kush is so high you can't get over it. So I had to call back the newspaper and told them to cease and desist. There wouldn't be any more articles coming back out of me. I couldn't do it. So I had to quit that. Yeah. But I talked to PAO and showed the guy that came to see me, and he said, well, you're not doing anything wrong. I said, I know. I said, the commander said, no more. I said, okay. So politically correct, I guess. How our hands are always tied. Every war we get into, our hands are tied. Mm-hmm. So I gave it up, and I stayed over there. How long I stayed there before I was going up a mountain and I fell and broke my back, and they medevac me out. and I went to Landstuhl, Germany, and then from there I went to Fort Sam Houston for a year. Been in the hospital before I came back, got out.
What's your most vivid memory of Afghanistan?
Gosh, I don't know. There was a lot of those over there too. I mean, they were so far backward. I mean, I tell people, did you ever see the movie The Bible and all those old mud huts and stuff? That's exactly what it was. Mm-hmm. That's all it was, just mud. No paved roads in Afghanistan. No sewer in Afghanistan. No running water in Afghanistan. They had none of these things. They had their septics next to their wells, so they didn't know what they were doing. They had so much of the stuff that was just so bad over there that, I had some bad stuff with a women's hospital there. That was our Secretary of State's primary goal, and he spent all this thousands and thousands of dollars on this hospital. Built them toilets, put in toilets and stuff. They didn't know what a toilet was. They were full of rocks and stuff. They didn't get toilet paper. So they had toilets, but they were full of rocks and sticks because the women didn't use toilet paper. That's what they used, and they were full of that. And it was a hospital for children. And they had all these these children, they had, you know, they're just, you know, no arms, no legs. The little women have babies, and they just throw them out in the barrel out there. And set the barrel, they had these barrels up the hill, and they cooked down at the bottom of the hill. And the barrel and the blood was just running right down there where they were cooking. And we're talking about human bodies and blood and everything, just pieces and bits and everything. It was pretty bad. But anyway, their stethoscope over there was a deal that they stuck on their forehead. They stuck it on their, it looked like an old horn that you put in your ear, but they had one that went on their forehead somehow. And that's what they used for examining women and stuff. And I'll never forget this one woman that's come out raising cuss because they, on the episiotomy, they didn't have any way to deaden it, so they just cut her. And yeah, and she was fighting them and stuff. And they just cut her and took it anyway.
They cut, what was it?
Her vagina.
Oh.
They just cut it.
Oh, yeah.
Get the baby out. They didn't have any anesthetic. It was blood and guts over there. It was a pretty nasty place. And all the kids over there, when you're 14 years old, the sign of being a man is when they give you an AK-47. And so we had to run around. I had my hammer back on my 9mm and my 16 all the time. Always alert, because they'd be within 2 feet of you, and they have that AK. They can turn it on you anytime. And we'd learn that from Nom. Got to watch them. And they gave it to them, and see, since we were not in the war, we couldn't take it away. We couldn't touch them. So we just wait for them to shoot first. This politically correct stuff got a lot of people killed over there. Lots of people killed.
Why were we in Afghanistan? Why are we in Afghanistan?
Oh, they were trying to keep Russia, I believe, from taking over that area, I believe, and having communist rule. Or the Taliban. Well, see, we were supported the Taliban before, yes, when Russia was there, see, so we supported them. Of course, we always support the wrong side. It's just the way we do things here in America. We always support the wrong side. Chiang Kai-shek, Ho Chi Minh, everybody, we support the wrong side. We had Noriega. Yeah, we have never, ever supported the correct side. Mm-hmm. So, anyway, I can't answer that question. We're still over there and still sending troops over there, so you tell me what's going on. I have no idea what in the world they're thinking or what they're trying to preserve. The country was mined out back during, 2,000 years ago. It was mined out. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing there. There's no minerals. There may be, but you can't get in there to it because the roads, there's no roads, there's no railroads, you can't get heavy stuff in. The only way you get in is fly it in. So it's definitely a third world country.
How long were you in Afghanistan?
Before I got hurt, I think it's around a little over 6 months.
Yeah.
Before I got hurt.
How's your back now?
Well, after a couple of years, I finally had to give in and have back surgery. I didn't want to, but because I know all the bad, things going on.
And what were you doing when you fell? What were you doing?
We were doing a reconnaissance of an area, and it was the hills over there are mountains. They're not hills, and they have no vegetation. So when you fall, you just roll to the bottom. If it's a mile down there, you fall a mile. I mean, you just roll because they're very steep and there's nothing to hold on to. So I got up there and I had my pack and all the gear and weapons and all the other stuff. And I don't know what happened, but anyway, I ended up banged up and busted up.
How far did you fall?
Probably about 100 yards. Enough to bang off a few rocks and stuff like that, yeah. And I put it off, but it was hurting too bad, so I had to go on sick call and see. So they x-rayed me and told me, said, well, I'm out of there. I got to go to Germany to have them check it real good. So went to Germany. I went with some boys that were SEALs that had just gotten a firefight, and they lost one of their buddies, and the other one was shot. So I was on the same flight with those guys. So we got to be pretty good friends on the trip. So I stayed in Landstuhl for maybe 2-3 weeks, something like that. And then flew to Washington, D.C. and got on Air Force 2, and they took us, we had a bunch of soldiers on there, and they took us to different, like Fort Cameron, Kentucky, got some soldiers there, and then our flight went from there, and then it went to Fort Sam Houston here in San Antonio at BAMC, and then it was going on, I don't know where else it was going to, I think it was going to another fort or two, you know, that had hospitals for soldiers. There's a few on the flight.
So when did you get your final discharge?
It was April the 4th, 2004.
2004. Would you join the Army again?
Yeah. Yeah, I would. I would.
I'd like to do a word association. I'll give you some words and you give me your reaction. The first one is basic training.
My reaction? It was okay.
Fort Dix.
Enjoyed Dix.
Jump school.
I enjoyed jump school.
First Cab Division.
Well, I love the brothers. I still see them. Still go to unions all the time. Try to talk to them. You know, it took me 20 years to get, you know, where I started going to the reunions and doing these things. But I think that's the nature of the beast. You don't really appreciate it until you've been away from them for a long time and you see how many's gone. And then you start thinking of things and you can't remember. You're trying to find somebody that could help you remember things. And there's nobody around anymore. So when you go to some of these reunions, sometimes you can run across somebody that knows something or find something else. So it's nice to go to reunions and meet some of these old guys. And you meet friends that weren't, I mean, they were in Vietnam, but they weren't there at the same time you were. But, you know, you were still drinking the same water and walking the same muddy old trails. So it's good camaraderie. I wouldn't trade my time in the military for anybody. I had some bad times and I had some pretty good times, but I wouldn't trade them for anything because the experience that I received was well worth everything that I got.
Vietnam.
That was a wonderful place to go. I got a lot of good experience over there. I didn't really like to, you know, try to kill people. That wasn't, you know, what I was raised to do, but, you know, I knew that it had to be done. So, I mean, I was patriotic and, you know, we had a flag out in our front yard and, you know, I'd go out there and put the flag up every morning. This was before I went to Vietnam when I was, you know, Dad was patriotic, so, you know, we'd go put the flag up every day and take it down and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, when I got to Nam, I was okay. It was my first biggest deal when I got to Vietnam was getting off that airplane in Saigon, and it was about 190 degrees and humidity was about 100%. It was so hot and miserable. I said, oh my God, and this was at night. I said, oh my gosh, what have I gotten into? And then after we stayed there, and then they put us on another plane that took us to Camp Radcliffe. And the first time I was there was a repo depot right there underneath Hong Kong Mountain. And they issued us a shelter half. And it was monsoon season, so shelter half, they gave me a shelter half. And the other guy had one. We put them together right there underneath the mountain. And when we were there was a firefight. Tracers coming off the top of Hong Kong down to the golf course. And we were stuck there. We didn't even have weapons. We had no weapons, and we were just hunkered down trying to figure out what in the world's going on here. So anyway, about 50 years later, I got to Afghanistan, and when I got to my place in Kandahar, first night, 4 o'clock in the morning, there's a firefight right there. Same stuff, deja vu. You talk about having goosebumps. Woo, goodness. I said, this can't be happening again twice in my life. But it did. So, yeah, we had 2 times both times I was over early, see.
Yeah.
So Afghanistan was early and Vietnam was early. So, yeah, all that stuff happened. Panama was different, but it was nice. The people were very, very friendly, very nice over there. We had, I guess, a little more support down there. It was just an in and out deal, but there's still people were breaking into buildings and, you know, businesses and stuff like that, looting. So you'd see 12-year-old kids out there with AKs or shotguns in front of every store down through there, guarding the stores for people. But no, Panama was, it's civilized. It wasn't. I mean, they had paved roads, they had sewer and water. Yeah, they had all the amenities that normal places, a railroad, airports, and of course we got 2 Army bases there and Air Force bases. So we'd already been there, and it was okay. It was a pretty nice place. If I had to go to one, that was a pretty good one to go to.
Afghanistan.
That wasn't a place to go to. That'd be on your. You wouldn't want that on your bucket list. Let me put it that way. No, Afghanistan was an eye opening. It was a different world, a different climate. You saw what destruction that the Taliban can do. I mean, I went up to Bamiyan, where the giant Buddha was. You've seen pictures. I've got some pictures there. I was there. I went all over, and I went down to the Khyber Pass, down right at the edge of Pakistan. I was there, and I traveled quite a bit for a while before I got situated right there at Kandahar. And so I'd come back to Kabul or Bagram Air Base, where we ended up flying in and out of. But it was different.
Lyndon Johnson.
Well, I think somebody ought to have done him the same way he did his dogs. Remember that?
Yes. On the ears.
Yeah, grab him by the ears, because he sure had his head up his ass.
Richard Nixon.
Well, I don't think he knew enough to do. He wasn't a military person. He didn't come here from Sikkim, and neither one of them were. So I don't really think that they knew. And they had Westmoreland, who was strictly military, and he was he's a political pawn too. So when you get to that rank and up there, you're all political pawns. So, and it's still that way right now. Hell, some congressman called 4-star general a disgrace to the uniform. Now shit, fire. They need to shoot the condemned congressman.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't understand these stupid people up there, but Washington's full of them, and they need to drain the swamp. You know that as well as I do.
Bill Clinton.
Slick Willie was about the same way. I was down at Panama when he sent the Cubans down there to get repatriated and all that stuff. See, when I was in the Guard, I was in Port Chaffee. I was in the Guard too. So our ATs were Chaffee. Well, all the Vietnamese came over, so we took care of the Vietnamese.
What'd you do down there?
Well, we took care. They were in the barracks and stuff. See, so we instead of having our barracks, we put up Tent City. So all the Vietnamese, they had all the buildings, and we would go over there and pretty much we left them alone. We made sure that they had the stuff that they wanted, because see, I was a combat engineer, so I wasn't. We built some things, and cleaned some potties, and make some latrines and stuff like that for them. But no, they came over there. Some of the orderly rooms and stuff were loaded with gold. They had so much gold that they brought from Vietnam over here. So they weren't too much, but some of the girls still had the same old good old habits. They'd meet you up on top of the hill up there, and for a candy bar or so, you got whatever you needed. So that didn't change. Some of them still there, but they were got dispersed pretty quick, really, over there at Chaffee. They dispersed them pretty good, and then after that, we had some of the Cubans came over there. They had those over there too, and I think they had to shoot a couple of them or something. They had some problems with them, and that's what we had when we had the stuff in Panama. That was when they really flushed the toilet, when they got in Panama, because we had all the bad stuff over there, and we had Tent City for them. We had them under fence and stuff, and had to keep them in there because these were bad people. 99% of them were all bad, so we had to, we took care of them. We did our civil affairs stuff, trying to, see what we needed to do and what they needed, and we took care of that area. But yeah, I was lucky. I had a friend from Tahlequah that lived down there who was, he was in the Navy, but he was the head of security for Amador, the naval station there. So when I was down there, I met up with him. So I had a place from home right there, so I could go over to his house He lived out there. It was pretty nice. And then George Soriano used to be on the unit. His brother was down there, and he and I became good friends. And his sister's his mother. So it was pretty nice after a while. After because we kept going back down there for 2 or 3 different tours, and then the other tour I had to go to Honduras for a while.
What'd you do there?
Did the same kind of stuff.
Okay.
We did the same kind of stuff there in Honduras. We had back in the old days, we used to, if something needed to be done, we'd use field expediency. We'd just go find if something needed to be painted, we'd go get some paint and go paint it. Well, down there, they had a cathedral down there. It was the biggest thing around there, and everybody came from all over this cathedral. It was old and all this stuff. So the Pacific Power and Gas, or some, I don't know, whatever anyway, some kind of company had a contract with the government. I was going to get some painting. We're going to take all our guys. We're going to go down there and paint the cathedral for them, and they were all for it and helped. And found out that if we'd painted, we'd been court-martialed because that's misappropriation, and they were going to court-martial us if we did that. So, needless to say, we had to let that one go. But we tried to, try to help people all we could down there, and But yeah, I've been here and there and everywhere.
George Bush.
George Bush, I like George. I think he means well. And
this is George Bush Sr.
Oh, the senior.
Yeah,
I thought you were talking about the junior.
No, the senior.
Oh, the senior.
Yeah.
Well, George Bush Senior was getting a little bit in dote age, I think. I think that he made some. Well, I guess I could be critical of all of them. I can find more things wrong than I can right. Let's put it that way. All the way up to definitely through the last one. This one we got now. I think he's all right if they would give him an opportunity to do his job. I really think that, if they would just give him the break, I believe he could take care of things. And he may have to take a big stick and do something before it's over with. If not, there's going to be a race right here, and then we're going to have a problem. And that's exactly which way he's pushing us. And then with all the Muslims we've got here, we've got a big problem with that. And we don't get our borders closed, we don't get this stuff taken care of. Your children, your grandchildren, or great-grandchildren, or whatever, they're not going to be here.
Nope.
So, we've got to look at one way or the other. We're either going to have to take care of them here, or when they come here, they're going to take care of us because we're not going to be, we weren't equipped. Obama got us where we weren't equipped to do anything anyway. So, that is my decision about that, people.
How do you want to be remembered?
How do I like? Just an old country boy that went to war and came back and learned a lot from the government and from Mother Nature, and just trying to enjoy life now in my older years.
Anything else you want to talk about?
I can't think of anything right offhanded that I want to talk about now.
Well, this is an excellent interview.
Oh, Bull, you're so full of it.
I want to thank you for your service and thank you for the interview.
Yes, Joe, you're certainly welcome.
And again, this is September 13th, 2017. My name is Joe Todd. This has been an interview with Bennett M. Guthrie II in Park Hill, Oklahoma.
That is correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.